Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
You already have a personal brand. The only question is, are you shaping it on purpose, or are you letting other people define your reputation for you? My guest knows this better than anyone. Dr. Mina is a Harvard-trained, double board-certified dermatologist and the host of the Skin Real podcast. And what I love about her story is how she shows us that personal branding isn't just for influencers, I say that with bunny ears, or entrepreneurs. It's for anyone who wants to take back control of their career, their confidence, and their future, especially in the medical community. This is an episode built for physicians and doctors who want to build their personal brand, to do what they started out in the first place, to help their patients. Right? Dr. Mina has been featured in People Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, and Glamour. She runs a bespoke dermatology practice, leads retreats, and speaks on some of the biggest stages in the world. But her mission is really simple: to bring humanity back to medicine. So if you've ever felt overlooked, boxed in, or like your season of influence has already passed, this is the episode for you. So tune in and have a great time with me and Dr. Mina. Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are so excited to have you today. It's not every day that I get to interview someone that I know, like, and admire. I get to know Dr. Mina and her brand and her business and her mission. I've gotten the privilege of getting to sit in the audience to hear her speak, and I'm so excited to introduce her to all of you today. Now, for all of those of you who are listening or watching, who her face is new to you, or Dr. Mina, her name is new to you. Dr. Mina, I really would love for everyone to kind of get to know you a little bit. And you've had kind of a unique journey, and in my opinion, of what a typical physician, an MD, would go through. Harvard-trained physician to top podcaster and entrepreneur. So can you tell our audience a little bit about your story and behind the Skin Real, and also just this whole concept of bringing humanity back into medicine?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, AJ, for having me on. You and Rory and Brand Builders has really been instrumental in my journey. So really thrilled to be here. And I think this is such an important topic, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, I guess I don't like to do anything the traditional way. Prior to being a doctor, I was a ballet dancer, and then I decided I wasn't a very good ballet dancer. Why don't I go to medical school? And everything was chugging along great. I was hitting all my goals: go to med school, become a dermatologist, become a Mohs surgeon, have my own practice, become a partner, until 2020. And in 2020, something pretty big happened in my life. I turned 40. Now, I know you were thinking COVID happened, and yes, so it's like a double whammy. But I turned 40 and I'm sitting at home. I'm not able to see my patients. I'm stressed out because my income relies on seeing patients. I have no idea we all had no idea what was going on. And I didn't have like a way to pivot into something else. And it really just flipped everything upside down. And it made me rethink, okay, I'm mid-career. I love what I do, but what happens when I can't physically see patients? What happens when the pandemic happens? If there's another pandemic, or I become disabled. And I also was having a lot of questions for myself. Like, I didn't look like who I thought I should look like at 40. I didn't recognize the person looking back at me. And I realized these bad habits that I had been kind of pushing under the rug, they didn't seem like that big a deal. By the time 10 years later, I wasn't the healthy version of myself I wanted to be. And all of that made me really dive into podcasts, into kind of a self-learning journey. And I realized I can help people as a doctor outside of my clinic walls. And that is really what drove me to start the podcast, The Skin Reel, because I knew people like me, women my age, because all my friends were asking me, like, what's going on with my skin? Why does my face, all of a sudden wrinkle like this? And I was disappointed with the information out there. So it was just kind of a journey for me to realize I can help my patients beyond my clinic walls, and there was a need for a physician, a dermatologist, to be giving skin information to the public. And yeah,
No,
so that's how it started.
I love this because I feel like every great business, every great story, every successful brand starts with a story like this. It's, I didn't like the information that was out there. And all my friends were asking, and I was asking, and I was looking in the mirror, and I'm like, why isn't there something more?
Yeah.
Why isn't someone doing something about this? And then you realize, oh, that's for me to do.
Exactly. Someone should change this.
And I love that when
Exactly.
people take on the responsibility of going, I'm not going to wait on someone else to do it. I'm going to do it.
Right.
That's my calling. That's my thing. That's what I can do. And what I love about this particular conversation and why I wanted you to come on the show is we work with a ton of physicians, MDs, chiropractors, dentists, but we work with a ton of people in the medical field at Brand Builders Group and at our sister company, Mission Driven Press. We've had the privilege to work on a lot of books and a lot of different brands behind the scenes that have this real unique expertise in the medical field, but yet the larger, broader physician community isn't really delving into this, what I would say in more mass appeal. And there's how dare I say, I think a medical crisis in the
Yeah.
United States, in my opinion, and the trustworthiness of doctors is going down, 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 and the information that's on the internet is bogus, but yet
Right.
that is what people are listening to because of an influencer, someone they quote unquote trust versus someone who really should be the voice of this educational information of all of this and they're not. They're kind of just being quiet, just handling patients in their
Yep.
office. And it makes me mad to be honest because we're going, can someone please tell us what we should actually know? Can somebody give us real answers versus going after fad after fad after fad? I could go on a very long tangent about this, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to know, like, you really have embraced this concept of like, no, I'm going to build my personal brand. I'm going to put truth out there. I'm going to answer the questions that people are asking for, whether they're in my practice, coming through my doors or not.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? And what would you say to the entire, physician community out in the US of like, why should they do it too?
Yeah, I mean, so many great points in there. And you're right. We're in a crisis right now in healthcare, and patients are suffering, and healthcare workers, doctors. I'm a doctor, so I'll speak for doctors, but I know the nurses are suffering. I know the people in the hospitals are suffering ever since COVID, right? We've lost autonomy. There is a loss of trust. It used to be, right? Like you put on a white coat, you're the doctor, you're going to do as I say, very paternalistic. And so I think physicians were like, well, why would I need to put myself out there? And in fact, it was really frowned upon to put yourself out there. At least when I was training about 15 years ago, if I had told people, oh, I'm going to do an Instagram account, I'd be told, oh, don't do that. People wouldn't take you seriously. And I
Mm,
have to admit, when I started my podcast, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I had no problem telling the world that I was doing it. I was so embarrassed to tell my partner, for my
mm,
staff to know, for my immediate community to know, because I was afraid they were going to look at me like, who do you think you are? Are you trying to be an influencer? Why isn't this good enough for you, what you have? So even though I was okay, doing this podcast to the world, within my community that knew me, I was kind of embarrassed. And it's taken me a couple of years to get over that and to be like, you know what? I'm putting out good information. And I feel like, I'm a part of this community of a lot of physician entrepreneurs. So I kind of feel like, oh yeah, we're all doing it. And then I go and I talk with like the rest of the physician community, and they're kind of like, wait, you're doing what? But I do feel so strongly that this is what we need to do more than ever. And I love how excuse me, I love how you and Rory talk about you have a personal brand. This isn't a question of should I get a personal brand? If you're a doctor, you have a personal brand. You're just not creating it. Other
Right.
people are. The Yelp reviews, the Google reviews, the administrators, your hospital system, whoever employs you, whatever. They're creating your personal brand if you're not actively curating it. So I would just encourage physicians, during this time where we do feel like we've lost autonomy, um, medicine is not what it used to be. We're having to dispel a lot of misinformation. You know what? Turn on your webcam and record a 5 minute, 10-minute teaching piece. Put it out there. It's going to be scary at first and see it as I'm helping patients, right? It's not like, oh, I want to be Instagram famous and a star, right? Like come from a place of service, which is what as physicians why we all went into medicine.
I love that you say that because as you were talking, I was reflecting back on where did I find my current groupings of doctors?
Mhm.
I was thinking about my dentist, my chiropractor, my, MD, like my, general practitioner. And as I was like listening to you talk, I just like literally gut checked myself because 10 years ago, I would have found most of my doctors through insurance.
Yeah.
I would have been like, who takes my insurance? And personally, we cut insurance out of our family 3 years ago. And it's like,
Amen.
I'm not I'm gonna go where I wanna go, who I wanna
Right.
see, and a lot of that shifted. It's like our current, we have a concierge doctor, and I heard him speak, and he was speaking
Wow.
to my EO group, and I'm like, "I wanna learn more about what you do," and it was because there was this relationship built, and I think he does just as much speaking as he sees patients at this day, and he's built up, other physicians in his practice, but I found him because he came to speak to my EO group about longevity. And it was about proactive, not reactive. It's like, what
Right.
can you do now? And there was something in there that resonated. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Why isn't my current doctor talking about that? And we left. And then we left insurance and went to this concierge doctor. And then I think about my dentist. And it's like, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard about him was at a conference that he was also a speaker at. But then he's on every page of every magazine in Nashville, Tennessee. He's like
Yeah.
a celebrity dentist here in Nashville, probably also around the country. But it was this unbelievable amount of reputation and trust that had been built up through books and speaking and podcasting and interviews and magazines. And it was like I couldn't go anywhere without seeing his face or his name. And that is how most of my friends find their practitioners today.
Right.
It
I
is through who are they learning from?
Right. And I love how you said, 10 years ago, right? You would have found them through insurance, but patients are wisening up. They're realizing this whole thing is a racket. It's a mess, right? You're paying every year more and more for your premiums and deductibles, and you're getting less and less. And so I'll have patients too where I ask them, how'd you find me? And it's AI. Oh, it's the mom's Facebook group they're a part of, and they recommend people. My business partner just saw someone who found him on TikTok, and my partner is in his 60s, and he said, well, I'm not on TikTok. And he said, well, they were posting about you on TikTok and it was good. So you don't know where these things are going to come from, but why not be the one putting out that information and education? And I see this is a free resource for people. It is so hard to find a dermatologist. I get it, right? There are long, long waits. And so at least I can put out this free content for people to learn and hopefully get some value. And if they want to become a patient, then they can. But I do, you're so right. Like this whole landscape of healthcare is changing. Patients want to be more proactive. Doctors, we want to be more proactive, right? Like it's not that we don't want to discuss these things. We just feel like we have constraints. But it's time that we stop making excuses, right? I used to think, oh, healthcare will get better. Someone's going to fix it. Congress will fix it. It'll turn around. And now I've realized 15 years later, it's not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is what I do. what I'm willing to accept, and how I'm going to practice. And so I would, any physicians listening or healthcare workers, like, don't feel like you don't have the power. It can feel like helpless at times, but you can change how you decide to practice and how you educate patients. And that may be on a stage.
I love that. Because, yeah, it's like, I mean, how many times am I actually showing up in the office? Right? Like, I
Right.
go to my dermatologist every single year, right? But I go typically once a year, right?
Right.
And that's just for like, skin health. But I go see my MD maybe twice a year. I see my dentist twice a year. It's like, well, I probably need some stuff in between, but I'm
Yeah.
not likely going to pick up the phone and call the office. So how am I going to stay up to date and knowing, should I come in a little more often? Did I notice something that maybe I should be looking at? That's because you're educating us outside of the four
Right.
walls of the office. No,
Right.
I have a question about this because I think, this is an interesting thing. And I think it's fascinating to hear you admit that, 5 years ago in 2020, when you were starting down this journey, you were kind of like, I'm not going to tell anyone and I'm here. Like, I'll tell everyone else. So
Exactly. Yep.
what are some of the misconceptions that doctors or other high achieving,
Yeah.
professionals, what do you think are some of the misconceptions they have about personal branding?
I think the biggest one, and this is for, I can speak for doctors, is maybe a little arrogance. Like, well, I'm a doctor. Of course they're going to come see me. I trained at Harvard. I trained at the top programs. And I'll tell you, when I was looking for a job, that's when it first hit me. Like, oh, I thought people were going to be falling all over to get me to come work with them. They were not. And so I think it's a little bit of this arrogance, like, oh, look at my credentials, look at my training. I've given all these talks at these academic meetings. I have, 30 plus publications, but patients don't know that. The public doesn't know that. And that's not really what they care about, right? They want someone who is approachable, someone they know, like, and trust, really, right? Someone who they feel like will listen to them. They don't care if I was, top 10% of my class, right? It's this it's changing. Now, maybe 30 years ago, maybe that is what people cared about, but it's not what they care about nowadays. They really want to know, like, and trust you. They can get the information anywhere. They want someone who can help put it together in a unique way that kind of meshes with them. I'm not going to be everyone's dermatologist. They're not going to always like my approach to things. Someone might be more of a maximalist and they want someone with a different approach, or more of a masculine approach. I don't know, whatever it can be. So you just need to present the information in your unique way so that people who are your people can find you, and they will.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's such a great that's such a great reminder, not just for, physicians, but for anyone in business. I think sometimes we all have the misconception of, I will build it and they will come.
Yeah.
We don't.
They didn't come. They didn't come.
You don't come. It's like, no, you have to build it and then you have to go tell everyone that you
Right.
built it.
Right.
It's like we have this quote in our new book, Wealthy and Well Known, that says, marketing is art. There is the art of what you do, but then there's the art of telling people that it exists.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are really good about the art of what we do because that's what you went to school for. That's where you spend all your time, money, energy, and resources. And we forget, no, we actually have to go tell people that this exists, that I am here and here's what we do and here's how we do it and here's how we're different. It's like we actually have to market our art.
Right.
And that's a
Yeah.
good reminder no matter what business you're in. I personally feel like in the medical community, that just doesn't happen near enough.
No.
I have to
Yeah.
do so much research on my own to figure out where to go and who's good and the amount of people I get referred from. And it's like kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
It would be so much better for us as consumers, the end users, for you to help us find you.
Right.
So, for whatever it's worth, for anyone who's listening, in the medical
Yeah.
community, it really is hard because there's so much to filter through. If you were more present, you would be so much more findable for your right audience,
Right.
right? And that goes both ways, right? Okay, so Dr. Mina, here's my next question. Now, not to say this is true for everyone, but I do feel like in the medical world, the medical community, people tend to, have long tenured careers. Okay. So for someone who feels like maybe their season of influence has passed, right? Maybe they're like, well, I've been doing this too long. I can't start doing that now. Or, things are just too different now. Whatever they might be saying, right? This whole I'm too late. It's
Yeah.
too late for me to build a personal brand, to start a podcast, to write a book, to go out and speak. Like, it's just too late for me. What would you say to them?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll say I feel that way. Sometimes I'll say, "Oh, I'm too old to start an Instagram account. I'm too old to get on TikTok." My children tell me, "Mom, you're too old to get on TikTok." So that doesn't help. Um, I had those feelings too, like, "Oh, who am I at 40 trying to, totally steer the ship in a different direction?" But our patients need this. And one thing, I mean, I have content for days. I will never run out of content because every time I see a patient or someone DMs me a question, or the grocery store checkout lady finds out I'm a dermatologist and asks me a question, like that's my content. That's what people want to know. And I think too, whatever you do when you're at sort of the top of your career, you think, oh, everyone already knows that, right? Oh, everyone already knows this is important, but they don't. You know it because you talk about it all the time and do it. So I think that's hard for people they think, oh, but this has already been done. Everyone knows it. Another one I felt was I see all these like 30-year-old dermatologists who kind of grew up with social media, Instagram. They have, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. And I think I can't do that. And I also don't really want to do that, which is fine. That you don't have to be, like you guys say, right? And brand builders, you don't have to go wide, go deep, right? And the people will find you no matter how old you are. I mean, some of my favorite people to follow, there's a neurosurgeon who I think is probably in his 60s, and he's like a dad figure, and I just love his content. He's not doing all the marketing gimmicks and things to get people to watch and all that, but he has a huge following. So there's an audience for you. You just have to put yourself out there, and it is scary, I admit, but just do it because it's so rewarding when someone comes up to me and says, "I heard your podcast, you're Dr. Mina," right? I'm not even that big, right? But they'll say that really, I listened to that podcast and it really resonated with me. Or when I'm seeing a patient, I can say, you know what? We haven't really had a lot of time to discuss this, but here's a video that you can go watch at your leisure that goes into it in more detail. So again, coming at it from you're helping patients. We're not doing this to become TikTok famous multi-million dollar stars or whatever, and not even to quit medicine, right? It's just another way to attract the patients that you want to see and the people you want to help take care of.
Yeah, it's like, hopefully for most people in the medical community, they got into medicine because they did want to help people,
Right.
right? And it's
Yeah.
like, this is a way to do that.
Exactly. It's a new way to think though, because medicine, right? Like we are just entrenched in these traditions. We are slow to innovate. We want to see all this data. And again, it is changing, but it's not changing fast enough. And we've allowed other people to have a loud voice out there, and we're sort of hiding behind our white coats in our clinic and not putting ourselves out there. So my hope is over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, like this whole landscape changes. And almost every doctor, if not every doctor, has a YouTube channel where they give education or some sort of platform that they use to engage with their patients and the public.
Yeah. I love that. Now, you said something a minute ago that I don't want to wash over because it's significant. And for people who are listening, I just don't want them to think, oh, well, that's just what she does. No, this is what you should do. You said, I have content for days. I'll
Yes.
never run out of content. Every question I get, every DM, every, person who's checking me out at the grocery line, every, whatever. Can you just talk a little bit about that a little bit more in depth? Because I think a lot of people do have that, kind of fear of, well, I don't have anything to say. What would I talk
Yeah.
about? Or what you ever said, what the other thing you said, which is, well, everyone already knows that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, everyone knows that.
Exactly.
Right? So talk a little bit about how you create your content and what you mean by every question I get is my content.
Yeah. So I think we overthink it, right? We think it has to be super complicated. It can't just be, do I need sunscreen on cloudy days? So I would say if you don't think you have content, like keep a journal throughout the day of, if you don't want to write, like get one of those voice recorders that just records you throughout the day and plug it into AI and say, hey, what were 50 questions, that I discussed today? You'll be amazed, right? I think we just see it so routinely, but sometimes I'll invite dermatologists on my podcast and they're like, oh, I have nothing to talk about. I'm like, what do you mean you have nothing to talk about? And I'll just tell them, I say, well, what do you find yourself saying over and over and over again to your patients or your friends who are texting you, hey, do I really need this or that? So I think we overthink it. We think it has to be these really deep, complex questions, but that's not really people want. They want to know what order do I put my skincare products in, right? And you may be like, oh, it's so obvious, but it's not, right? And so that's your content. We just need to be aware. We need to um, not just like go through our day and like just because it's like, oh, here I go. I'm going to give my spiel about sunscreen. Like actually take the time to be like, ah, that was a question someone asked me. And I really think use one of those voice recorders because AI will tell you. They will tell you the 50 things you talked about with your patients and give you questions or give you content ideas if you're struggling. But I think if you really just take a step back in your day instead of just going through the motions, you'll realize you have content everywhere. In fact, I have too much content. I forget. I'm like, oh man, I wanted to do a video on that, or I forgot that. So I have the opposite problem. Like I don't have enough time to record all the things I want to record.
Yeah, and I would just like to what you're saying, like I would encourage for anyone who's listening who is a physician to just spend a few minutes on Instagram or YouTube or on TikTok
Yeah.
and look at all the false information out there.
Right.
Like, what if you just did that and said, you know what? I saw something today that wasn't quite accurate. I'd love to put the medical perspective, the real
Yeah.
perspective behind this.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I do with all my friends who are doctors.
Yeah.
All these tips, trends, whatever that are happening online. I'm like sending them like, can you verify this? I
Yes.
just, well, I saw a video the other day just because, you're a dermatologist, maybe you can speak to this, where this guy was making this whole thing about like all the natural homeopathic things that you can do if you don't want to have fillers or Botox or do whatever. And he said, if you wash your face in ice cold water every day, it'll have the same impacts as Botox. Right.
Wow.
And it's like,
I wish. Trust me, I would have a bowl of ice water right here, AJ.
I know he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna put like ice in like what am I gonna what crazy thing am I doing?" And so I'm like sending this to all my friends and they're like, who is this? Find this. So again, I would just encourage, like, if you think, right, you don't have anything to talk about, just go watch
Yeah. Yeah.
recordings and go,
Yep.
well, let's talk about the science behind this.
Right.
Let's talk about, so I just, to what you were saying, Dr. Mina, it's like there's content for days,
Yeah.
especially when there's so much false information out there,
Yes.
well, or opposing information. And, a lot of people are buying into that because somebody who has the real truth and the real answers just isn't out there.
Exactly.
And I think that's like why I appreciate you and what you do so much is you answered the call. I'm
Yeah.
not going to wait for someone else to fix this. I'm not going to wait for someone else to do it. I have this experience. I have this knowledge. I have this expertise. I believe that people in the medical field have a responsibility to
Yeah.
help re-educate the public when there's a
Right.
whole bunch of false junk out there. So I love you for just being like, no, I answered the call. I didn't wait on someone else. I
Yeah.
love
And I think this is where this is the future, right? There's not enough doctors to see everyone. There's so much, it's so easy to spread information, including misinformation. So I know it feels weird for physicians to think about doing this, but this really, otherwise, you're going to be the world's best kept secret. And that's no good either, right?
that doesn't help anyone. So on that
No.
note, I have two quick questions. I know that well, actually I lied. I have like three quick questions. But I think this one is interesting because you've been featured in a lot of well-known media, right? People, Wall Street Journal, Glamour. There's a lot of mainstream media that you've been featured in. And I'd just like for you to speak to just for a moment, like how can building a personal brand create opportunities beyond just the immediate career field?
Oh yeah. And I think especially nowadays there's so much physician burnout out there. We feel like we've done all this training, we've spent all this money, and now we're just like a cog in the wheel of this dysfunctional healthcare system. And so burnout's a very real thing. And what I love about cultivating your personal brand is, again, you're taking ownership. I can't fix insurance single-handedly, but I can change how I'm going to show up and what I'm going to do, and I just find that so empowering, especially nowadays. So whether you're employed, own your own practice, whatever, you can all have a personal brand. And the opportunities that it affords is really remarkable. Yeah, I've been quoted in a lot of pieces. People approach me. I get approached all the time about brand deals, which I want to be really selective. If I'm going to put my name behind something, it's something that I really use, I recommend. I've already talked about it. Because again, I do think as physicians, we do need to be careful about that. Don't just take everything that comes your way. Really vet it, screen it, and make sure it's something you believe in. Because people, I feel like that is one way to lose your credibility, right? But lots of opportunities can come. Come speak at this event. I really want to focus on women in midlife, basically me, who are going through, who are noticing changes and maybe feeling irrelevant, like I'm invisible now. I'm past my prime, and helping them see, wait a minute, you're not. Just and how can you still be healthy and beautiful and have beautiful skin, and really taking an inside out approach. So that's really sort of like my platform. Those are the people I want to speak to and help. And it's amazing how many opportunities will find you when you start putting your name out there. And you're not going to say yes to all of them, but it just takes like that one connection, that one person that you meet. And who knows? Like next, I'll be writing a book, right? All these amazing things that can come from just turning on your camera and helping people. And that's really like, we're physicians, we go into medicine to help people. So this is just sort of like doctor 2.0. Like it's just the new era.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so true. It's people are looking for truths and all different, facets of life, and medicine and healthcare is definitely one where we're all seeking of like,
Right.
what should I do? This person says this and that person says that. And then it's like creating your own brand around like this is my take. This is
Right.
my mission in the field. And that does attract different things. It's not going to be for everyone, but
Yeah.
find your thing, and it does start to attract some of that. Now, we mentioned insurance earlier, and I had this as a side note. I want to come back to it for a second because I think there's a love-hate relationship with insurance for a lot of us. Um, but I think this is an interesting question. And this is a question that you brought up, and I want to kind of like re-tackle this again for those who are listening. In your opinion, how does building a personal brand give doctors back control when they feel powerless against insurance companies and big, large administrators?
Yeah. So again, it gives you options. So for instance, I have two practices now. I have one where I do take insurance. I tend to do more surgery, and I have a lot of Medicare patients who are older. And I love that patient population. I really love what I do, but I can't really talk about preventative and longevity and regenerative options for skincare in these short visits. So I realized I really need to have something else where people can find me and come see me. And so that's why I also have out of network direct specialty care practice where people, if I align with them, and they want to spend, really, the goal is to have sort of a 12-month or more experience with me where we really delve into all that is skincare, not just topicals or procedures, like kind of skin health holistically. And so that's where I'm able to really take the time with these patients who go over nutrition, exercise, like all the things that go into healthy skin, where I think too often we think it's just what products you put on. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't already have a voice out there and a personal brand that people knew and resonated with. Because otherwise I'd open up that shop, think everyone's gonna come, hang my shingle, and crickets, right? Like people have to know me, they have to trust me. And that's another thing. I love when patients come in and they say, I feel like I already know you because
Mhm.
they've watched me, they've followed me, they've heard my podcast, they know my personality, they know sort of what I'm like, they know my kids' names or my husband's name. So to me, that just makes the relationship more special because they already know me, they're already invested in working with me, and it's just super fulfilling, and that helps with the burnout where I don't feel like a cog in the wheel now because I have options. And so I understand there is a role for insurance. Not everyone's able or willing to give up insurance completely, and I do think it has a role for very you know expensive surgeries, chemotherapy, cancer, catastrophic stuff. But it's like car insurance or homeowners insurance, right? You don't use that for your oil change, right? You save it for, the wreck if it happens. And I do think people are starting to realize, like, wait a minute, I'm paying all this money for insurance. I'm not getting what I want in return. I'm told who I can and can't see. And so I think it's patients are realizing this and physicians are realizing, like, wait a minute, I don't have to accept this. I can do this better. I can serve my patients in a better way. And so that's why I'm kind of playing the fence. I'm doing both sides, but in different ways.
Yeah, but you said something that I think is really powerful. It's like you said, I love it when patients come in and go, I feel like I already know you.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of like people are opting in to your practice. They're opted in to your methodology. They've opted in to your way of doing things. So there isn't like this, I have to convince you. Or I'm gonna have to educate you. Like you've already done the education. That's why they're
Right.
there. Like, that's a pretty powerful thing when someone goes, "Hey, no, I'm here because I feel like I already know you. I already have a level of trust. I've already learned from you." So they're not coming in as "I don't know anything. Tell me what to
Right.
do." It's like, "No, I've been following you, learning from you. It's why I'm here."
Right.
That's a different patient.
Oh yeah, and it makes it's a relationship, right? And that's where in healthcare, the relationship, now we're providers. You see someone new each time. People are always moving around, and it's frustrating. The patients are like, "Hey, I don't know who's my doctor, or who I'm really seeing." And I like the relationships. That's why I love being a dermatologist. I love seeing patients over and over. I love building that relationship with them and their families, learning about their families. So to me, that's the rewarding part of
Yeah.
having that connection. And I love it when they come in, they're already on board, and we know it's going to be a match.
And I love it too. It's like you find because I was thinking as you were talking, like my chiropractor, her name is Dr. Sarah. And at this point, I think she only works 1 day a week. And I rearrange my whole schedule to only see her. So like, I don't want to see anyone else. Right? Like
Yep.
I thought for you. And
Yeah.
that's because I like her way of doing it. Now, could I
Yeah.
see everyone else there? Sure. Do they likely do something similar? Sure. I don't want that. I want
Right.
her. Right. And I think that's the type of relationship that we should be cultivating, that we should be creating in our different medical practices is they're like they're here because there is a relationship,
Yeah.
right? It's like I won't see anyone but her. I'll schedule everything else so I can just get her for that 10-minute visit. But it's important because I want her, and I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of what we're seeing. It's like you gotta do work to build that relationship. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen when you see someone once a year.
Right.
This can happen. There's got to be something outside of that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Last question. What's one small step that a busy doctor could start taking today to start building their personal brand?
Yeah. So I would say just start. I started I didn't have you guys, I didn't have brand builders helping me. I did it messy, right? Just I and that's the thing, like physicians, we are perfectionists. We want it perfect. And in medicine, yeah, you kind of want your doctor to be a perfectionist, right? But for something like this, it doesn't have to be perfect. Someone asked me like, wait, before you record, do you do your hair? Do you do your makeup? I'm like, no, I've got like my hair clip. I was just seeing patients. I just threw it down and it's about to go right back up when we're done. Like you don't, I did invest in a ring light, so I do think, or a camera that clips on my thing. But you don't need that, right? A microphone could help, but just sit down and do 5 minutes and record. What did you see today that you talked about, and just put it out there
Mm,
because. at first in the beginning, the good news is not a lot of people are watching, right, in the beginning. So you've got some wiggle room and just
Practice
create like
fire.
a just create like a library for your patients that you're seeing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I'm always talking about how to take care of a wound. So I'm going to do a quick 5-minute video. Here's how you take care of a wound. And you've got it up on YouTube. It's free. And then you just start adding to it. But I think we think it's got to be this big production. We've got to have like producers and all of this stuff, which there are people who do that and it looks amazing. But I don't do that. And you don't have to do it. That's not what people are really looking for. They're looking for just good content. And if you don't believe me, like just go on YouTube and start looking up stuff. Like look at other doctors in your field. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they they filmed with whatever in the mirror that we all can see. But hey, just do it. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't think it has to be perfect. A 5-minute quick video on something you talk about all the time, and just start creating a library of content or things you want to talk about, a blog, whatever. If you don't want to be on camera, though, I do think people like seeing you. So I would encourage that. But I would say just start. Don't be scared. You don't have to tell anyone. You can be like me and just tell the world, right? And don't tell your immediate people. But I find like patients love it when I can say, hey, I'm going to send you a video on how to do this, or I'm going to send you a video on X, Y, or Z. And they love it. And I don't think all my patients are older. They don't know how to do that. Nowadays, everyone's got a phone and everyone's got someone who can help them click a link, right? So I find even my 90-year-old patients, they know how to work that phone and they know how to click buttons.
Yeah, I can't, reinforce that more. And it's like the hardest thing to do is just to start.
Yeah.
Right? It's like pick one question that one patient asked you today, turn on your
Yeah.
phone and record an answer. Even if you never send it, just start building an archive in your phone. And when you feel just enough confident one day, you start putting them out there, or you just
Yeah.
have them for your, patient body
Yeah.
within the office. But it's like pick one question every day that someone asked you that you're like, I get asked that all the time.
Right.
What if I didn't have to repeat myself 14 times a day?
That's
How to
right.
beat you for that?
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah.
Dr. Mina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think we have so many conversations with, different types of entrepreneurs and business owners and course creators, but I haven't really had a physician on the show to talk about what does building a personal brand look like as a doctor, right? Like, what does that look like in the medical field? And this has been so refreshing and so enlightening. And I just want to commend you for, again, I said this 3 times now, but I'm not waiting around for someone else to do it.
Yeah.
I answered the call. I started doing this, wasn't perfect, but you just got to show up. And look at what that has done in such a short amount of time for you, your practice, your business, but most importantly, for all the patients that you're helping. So if people want to stay in touch with you because you're awesome, where should they go?
Yeah, so if you want to watch some of my videos when I started and wasn't so good, I have an app where I put all my content in one place, my videos, podcast, blog, and my email, my contact information is there. So it's the Skin Real, which I have to spell out in this day and age, REAL, like real skin, and it's on Android, Apple. You can find it there. It's totally free. So even if you're like, I don't care anything about skin, maybe you have a patient who cares about their skin and you are like, hey, just go get this app, right? She's got all the content. You can follow her. But all my information's in there, the material I'm putting out there, and you can kind of get an example of like, this is how she does it. And it's not perfect and it's messy at times, but I'm giving real good information for my patients. And that's what keeps me going.
Love it. Y'all go to the App Store, the Skin Real app with Dr. Mina. We will put the link in the show notes along with a link to her website, social media profiles, podcast. We'll do all the things, but you can find all of that in the app, right? So go to the App
Yeah.
Store, Skin Real, to learn more from Dr. Mina. Thank you so much for being here. So excited. Everyone else, we'll see you next time on the Influential Personal Brand. Bye, everybody.